Most people who are actually sharp eventually run into the same wall. And that wall is this: being intelligent does not make you light. It doesn't. It does not make you one of the guys. And let's just say that it does not win you many rooms. Okay. And you would think that clear thinking and good judgment and having the ability to see through nonsense would earn respect, right? In reality, it often does the opposite. It makes the room tense. It makes people clutch their pearls. It even makes these people hostile towards you, and they may not even know why. You said something that made you go from peer to the problem, and but yeah, here's what's really happening. It's so when you walk into a conversation and you're obviously sharper than the people around you, they don't experience that interaction the way you think they do. I mean, they're not experiencing it as, wow, this person is smart. No, they're experiencing it as they're thinking to themselves, geez, I mean, if they're this far ahead of me, then what do they see when they look at me? Right? And they won't say that out loud, obviously. I mean, most of them, they won't even admit that thought to themselves, but they will have that thought running in the background of their mind. They will be thinking things like, oh my gosh, they see things that I miss. And if they see more than I do, then they must also see where I come up short. And if that's the case, then they must think less of me. And so what happens in that moment is your intelligence, it turns into a mirror. It turns into a mirror that they don't want to stand in front of. And they don't attack the mirror with arguments. They attack it with attitude. They roll their eyes. They change the subject. They take little shots at you. They look for ways to diminish you somewhere else. And on the surface, yeah, it looks like they're pushing back on your point, but underneath all of that, what they're really doing is they're pushing away the way that you make them feel about themselves. Because here's the thing about people, most people, they prefer rooms where they feel slightly above average. Where they're not challenged and they're not outclassed. They're just comfortably competent. And that is precisely why the loud, simple person with nothing deep to add to the conversation often has a crowd around them, because they don't threaten anyone's self-image. They give other people warmth. You give them contrast. And so warmth feels good to them, contrast doesn't. And so when you show up with real insight, your presence alone reminds people that they're not as switched on as they thought they were. And you didn't insult anyone. It's not that you said anything incendiary per se, but they felt insulted. If they feel insulted, then they're going to react on that feeling and not the facts. But there's another layer here that smart people tend to miss, and that's that if someone can't beat you on ideas, they're smart enough to not sit there forever and lose. They're not going to sit there and lose forever. They are smart enough to leave that arena. And here's what they do: they at some point they drag the whole thing out of the arena of reason and into the arena of will. So in the arena of reason, you have the advantage, but in the arena of will, everyone is on a level playing field. And so now the question becomes, well, who can talk louder, or who can humiliate who can turn the room against the other person? And that's precisely why debates, they oftentimes just slide into, sarcastic remarks and name calling and character assassinations. It's not random. It's a strategy. If they can't beat your thinking, then they'll try to beat your reputation. And in the social game, the real question is rarely who's right. The real question is oftentimes who looks weak. That's the real question. And, smart people who insist on staying calm and logic in a room that's already gone emotional, they keep getting blindsided because their thought process is, well, dude, I made a solid point. And then the other person is thinking and saying, well, yeah, but I made you look like an idiot though. And so that's the disconnect. They're they're operating on two different scoreboards. And now we just take that pattern and just zoom out to bigger systems. I mean, look at most institutions and how they run, whether it's in politics or corporate or, some bureaucracy or even academic spaces, especially academic spaces, and a lot of them. I mean, you you do not see a line of independent high horsepower minds at the top. You just don't. You don't. You see a whole lot of polished mediocrity. Reason being is that to rise in these systems, you need allies and you need favors. You need people to feel comfortable around you. And so average minds are just better at that game because they flatter and they mirror and they never accidentally expose how shallow the boss is. They don't call out the emperor not having any clothes on. Whereas the highly intelligent person, they're hyper vigilant. They see the flaws and the waste, the mismanagement, the bad decisions, and they have a really hard time pretending that they don't. I mean, even if they keep their mouth mostly shut, it inevitably leaks out in their face, their facial expression, their tonality, in their questions. I mean, and that reads to the other people that they're prideful or they're cold or they're not a team player, right? You hear that a lot in the professional world. So that's why the mediocre people, they move up more easily because they're easy to be around. That's why they move up. And the sharper person gets pushed aside because they're labeled hard to be around. Just simply because they see too much and they can't fully hide it. They can't play along. They can't play the game. And so, I mean, the result is now you see boards and committees and these expert panels that are just full of, they're just full of safe mid-level thinkers who they never threaten one another at all. So, but yeah, I mean, and if you zoom back in here, I mean, there is a psychological cost to the individual. I mean that outer structure, it always lands in your inner life. There is a personal cost. I mean, if people feel smaller next to you, they're not gonna say, "Yo, dude, I feel insecure. I should grow." No, what they'll say is there's something off about them, and then they build a story around that feeling, and they'll say that they're arrogant, they're negative, they think they're better than everyone. They're hard to work with because it's easier to diagnose you than to look at their own limitations. And that's a huge reason why mental sharpness, it tends to isolate the person who has it. And it's not because that person secretly hates people. It's because the more accurate they become, the fewer people can tolerate what they reflect back. And I mean, we're social creatures. We want to be accepted by the pack, by the group. And so if they're wanting to be accepted, they'll start to pull back. They will go quiet in groups, and they'll stop bringing up their full perspective in casual conversations. They'll stop expecting to be understood. They'll knock it off, and in that quiet, they start to turn on them. They start to turn on themselves. They start to have these thoughts of, well, maybe I'm the issue. Maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe I should just shut up and play along. And it is important to be introspective and to really be self-aware. And yeah, I mean, you can have flaws that you need to assess and address. But a lot of the times they mistake social rejection for proof that they're morally in the wrong, when most of the time it's just a clash between their accuracy and others' egos. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, to see this more clearly, I mean, it helps to look at just a different arena where the pattern is pretty obvious. It's glaringly obvious. I mean, if you can see a parallel with beauty. especially among women. If you put a really attractive woman in a group of average looking women, just watch the energy shift. I mean, they 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 feel the comparison and it hurts. The average women, they feel it and it hurts. And so they don't attack the attractive woman's looks. What they'll do is they'll attack her character. They'll say things like she's fake, she's manipulative, she's full of herself, she's this, she's that, or the other, she's a narcissist. Whatever it is, it's the same move. I mean, when someone's presence forces you into a comparison that you don't like, you go after what you can reach, which is their name, not their face. And so intelligence, it hits people's ego the way that beauty hits their vanity. And in both cases, the safest social move is to just stand next to the person, or it's to stand next to someone that you feel above and not someone that you feel beneath. And this is going to sound mean. It's not intended to, but I mean, this is why the nice dummy, I guess you could say, wins the room. You've seen them. You know what I'm talking about. It's they're not that bright, but everyone likes them. They're such a good person and they're easy to be around. I mean, just watch what they do. I mean, they almost never disagree with anyone. They laugh at everyone's jokes. They never introduce any, I guess, incendiary ideas. Or any ideas at all that make anybody feel slow. Let's just put it that way. They validate feelings and they really just avoid hard conversations or conclusions, things like that. So, like I said earlier, they're safe. They're completely safe. They give off warmth. They give people what they want most in social life, which is just it's a painless version of themselves. And but yeah, meanwhile, the sharper person, they're they're in the corner just quiet. Let's say they're at a happy hour and they're still in their head. They're all business. They're trying to think of things. They're like, this doesn't make sense. Like they're trying to talk business and they're trying to be critical and logical, and no one wants that at happy hour. They're not, they want comfort. They don't want any form of clarity in that moment. So that's why the nice dummy racks up, invites and favors and connections. And then the intelligent person, all they do is they don't rack up any of that stuff at all. They just, they don't get the invites. They stop getting the invites. And so, but yeah, I mean, if you're a person with above average intelligence, I mean, here is the reality. And you will never be liked by everyone without lying about what you see. And yeah, you can learn tact. You can choose better timing. And I mean, that at the end of the day, that's just maturity. Because yeah, it is important for you to read the room and to be tactful, learn how to be tactful, and pick your timing, because timing is everything. But yeah, I mean, you can't be fully awake and fully fully embraced by the average crowd at the same time. Let's just put it that way. And because yeah, those two things, they do not coexist. You just have to come to that conclusion. So you really have to decide what you want more, right? Do you want comfort in dumb rooms or accuracy and self-respect in fewer, better alliances? Right? That's what do you want? I'm going to repeat that again. Do you want comfort in dumb rooms or accuracy and self-respect with fewer, better alliances? And once you see how things really work, you can't unsee it, obviously. And trying to pretend that you're blind again it will eat you alive. If you want to stay sane, there's a few things that you can do here, that you can change and pivot to. The first thing is just stop trying to prove yourself to people who are they're not committed to understanding you. I mean, you're not going to argue someone into liking you. That's just not going to happen. I mean, if your presence already threatens them, I mean, more evidence of your intelligence, it just makes it worse, honestly. And then the second thing is that, you just need to separate socializing from truth telling. That's something that I've learned. There are times to sit back and just let the group talk nonsense and just treat it as background noise, because the stakes are low and the purpose is just bonding at that point. Not every interaction is a trial where the truth has to win. And the third thing is you need peers. I mean, you need at least a small circle of people who don't feel attacked by clarity. People who can say, you know what, you're right, and that does sting, but I needed to hear that. I mean, those people, they are very rare. And when you find those people, you need to hold on to them, because that's your real community. You can be sharper with those individuals, okay? And then lastly, the fourth thing is that, be honest about the cost. I mean, if you insist on seeing things as they are and saying what you see, you will lose some paths that are only open to people who flatter and conform and just keep the mask on. So don't romanticize that. Just accept it as the price of staying honest. Okay. And just, I mean, all of that can harden into contempt if you're not careful. I mean, so this part matters. I mean, the point of all of this is not to train you to despise people. It's not. And I know a lot of smart people go there. They go there and then they start, saying things and thinking like, oh, well, everyone's dumb and nobody thinks and everything is fake. And I've been there. I'm guilty of that. But here's the thing. That posture, it will rot you from the inside. It will. Most people are not villains for avoiding uncomfortable comparisons. They're not. They're just defending their sense of worth the only way that they know how. I mean, you do the same thing in areas where you feel weak. The goal is not to rage against average people. The goal is to just stop expecting average environments to reward what you do best. And once you drop that expectation, a lot of bitterness burns off. I mean, you stop taking it as you stop taking it personally, and you see it for what it is. And life becomes a little better, becomes a little bit easier for you. And so, but yeah, I mean, if this lands, I mean, it's probably because you lived it. You've bitten your tongue in meetings, I'm sure, that made absolutely no sense. You wanted to say so bad, dude, this could have just been an email, man. What are we doing here? Right? I mean, you've had people come to you in private for advice, but then ignore you in public because they don't want to admit that you're right. You've watched less capable people move ahead, and it had nothing to do with they didn't bring more value. But because they were the safer choice, right? I mean, you're not a loony for noticing any of that. I mean, you're not too much for registering the distance between what people say and what is actually happening. You're just carrying the weight that comes with seeing the world clearly. And your job is not to dim your mind until the room feels comfortable. Your job is to use what you've been given in places where truth actually matters. And to accept that those places will always be fewer and smaller than you'd like. That's the deal.